welcome to 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. We are back with more streams of the Forgotten City with my commentary as to the ancient content, well, with particular attention to the ancient content. I hope that we haven't forgotten where we were. Please let me know if you're here in chat. Come and say hi, and let me know if the volume sounds okay on me and the game, because we just got it set up again. Let's continue, shall we? Welcome back to an ancient Roman city. What on earth was I up to? Well, let's see. So, we don't know what happened to Santilla yet. To drop out of this election. Our precious cinnamon roll Galerius wants us to to obtain a flower that he's a little bit scared to try and get himself. So, try to get to the upper cistern perhaps. Figure out how to get Galerius elected magistrate. He said if Malleolus drops out, he will, so that's our goal. Oh yeah, should have said this first. Trigger warning, suicide. I have not yet figured out how to prevent this. So we have the big mystery of the missing plaques for the obelisk in front of the big temple. I think we know where it is, but we don't have a key to get in. And then, of course, there are the other potential plaques. Alright. So. Okay, well, I'm assuming that since no one has said anything about the volume, that it is in fact okay. So let's see what's going on. Believe we wanted to... Oh, where are you going, Fabia?
Salve, friend.
Oh, it's Octavia. What's up? Why are you walking over there to talk to me?
I hope you're coping.
I believe we've already talked this through.
Even if I had seen it, and I'm not saying I have, I couldn't in good conscience give it to you. That's all I'll say.
Fair enough.
Oh, so soon? Well, be gentle on yourself. We're all dealing with a tragic loss today.
Our friend Georgius. Oh, hello.
Ah, a fellow traveler from a faraway land. Greetings, I'm Georgius. It gladdens me to see another foreigner in our midst. We must stick together, you and I.
I just really find these characters so charming. Except the ones who are deliberately not charming. That seems rude. Why don't I have another option?
My friend, your words intrigue me more and more. But yes, very well. Ask me what you will.
Well, we would like to know where the Egyptian guy went.
Ah, I knew this day would come. I do not wish to lie to you, my friend, but even discussing this matter is dangerous. Please, let us leave the live coals safely beneath the ash. Very well, but the magistrate would not look kindly upon this, so please keep it to yourself. For several months now, I have been sneaking out at night to worship the gods of my ancestors in the temple of Demeter. Each day, I leave offerings of food in the hope that we may have a bountiful harvest, and yet the next day when I return, the food is missing. The offering, it is symbolic, you see. It is never eaten. So I ask, who or what is devouring the food in this temple? Stranger still. Once I sat in front of my shop like the 100-eyed Argus until dawn to see if I could spot a thief going in. But do you know what I saw?
Well, let's take a moment. I can't recall if I've mentioned before the 100-eyed Argus. The 100-eyed Argus was a giant with 100 eyes facing in all directions, and he was friendly to the gods. And Zeus, in his infinite philandry, decided to go down and prey upon this girl named Io. Now, Hera caught wind and was getting ready to come in and bring some harshness down on Io, because she can't exactly get at her husband, when Zeus decided to hide Io by turning her into a cow. Why a cow? I really don't know. But in any case, he said, oh, you know, it's just a cow. And Hera said, oh, what a very pretty cow. I think I would like to keep it safe for myself. Give it to me as a gift. And he couldn't refuse, so she took Io, the cow, and set 100-eyed Argus to guard her, so that no one would ever be able to sneak up and take her away. Zeus then asked Hermes, the god among other things of trickery, to get Io free, so Hermes played a song and put 100-eyed Argus to sleep, and then killed him for good measure. And then Io got away. I mean, away from Hera, anyway. Not much you can do to get away from Zeus. Oh, I've been using the Greek names all this time because he has me talking about Demeter. See, our fellow Greek foreigner here has been worshipping at a temple of Demeter, which we haven't been in. Kind of interesting in this completely Roman city that somewhere is a temple to Demeter. So, there's not just Roman architecture here. I believe our fluffy cinnamon roll of a gay Germano-French person had already told us that there's a lot of underlying strangeness to the architecture around town. So apparently one of the things is a Greek temple to Demeter. Demeter, also known in Roman as Ceres, Ceres, it's where we get our word cereal or grain. She's the goddess of the harvest, of bounty, of springtime, of life. And, not incidentally, the mother of Proserpina, the queen of the underworld, and the goddess who has, we think, been whispering from the mouths of the statues. So, an intriguing temple to have. So, what did you see? I have no idea.
Nothing. Nobody entered. And yet when I went to take a look, my offering was gone. It is bizarre, is it not? When I told my friend Kabash of this at the tavern, he offered to help investigate. He went in, and to my dismay, he was never seen again.
Well, that is worrying. Where is this temple to?
It is the only Greek temple in the city. Head towards the baths, and it is the last building on your right.
Okay. Well, what else have we got to talk about?
Not so loud.
Let's keep asking
What are you
worrying
playing
questions, shall we?
Have you not been told about the last attempt?
I don't think I have, actually. An attempt to leave.
Oh, then I suppose this duty falls to me. Ah, it is a long story.
Go ahead and tell
Of
me.
course, the first question any of us asks when we first arrive is, how do I escape? It is only natural after all. And scaling the chasm wall is out of the question, for it is simply too steep and too far. But as they say, if the wind fails, use the oars. And here the second option is to leave the way we came in, through the shaft above the bathhouse. See, the shaft is quite high, but if one gathered up enough wood, one could make a series of ladders and climb one's way out.
So, why hasn't anyone
They
done that?
have. I am getting to that. There was an attempt made by resourceful fellows who lived here some years ago. They even decided to keep records of their escape attempt for posterity. Unfortunately, as soon as they began to carry the first ladder down the hallway, they heard a godlike voice shake the entire city, and that, tragically, is where their tail ends. So it seems
Well,
that to really
recognize
attempt
that.
escape is to invite the wrath of whichever god oversees this place. And so I say, it is best to not even discuss it aloud.
Well, if you have been following along with my previous attempts at this game, you'll recognize the godlike voice shaking the city as the golden rule being broken. When that happens, there's this big booming male voice, and it says, "For the sins of one, many shall suffer." And then all the golden statues around town come to life and try to shoot. And mostly succeed. So, the golden rule, for anybody watching along who hasn't seen the previous episodes, is the only law of this land, which is that if anybody sins, for whatever that means for a Roman, which is completely unclear, even to them, then the golden statues come to life and turn everybody else into new golden statues by shooting them. We actually have acquired at this point a golden bow and can turn organic matter into gold. I haven't tried shooting any people that way. It strikes me that that would probably break the gold.
Ah, yes. The many shall suffer for the sins of the one. As a Greek, this is nothing new to me. It is how our gods operate.
So, although it's nice and glib to claim that Roman mythology is just Greek mythology with the names papered over, there are differences in how the gods are portrayed and in many of the individual gods. Some of them are conflated in very strange ways. It's more that they had very similar religions, and the Romans just adopted every religion they came across and somehow folded it into their own. And their relationship with the Greeks was long-standing, so that had already been done by the time we start to really get records. So, why do you say that?
Have you not heard the tale of the god Hades? He was the first to learn this dreadful lesson when he abducted Persephone and imprisoned her in the underworld. When Demeter, the mother of Persephone, learned of this, she did not punish Hades, the guilty one. Instead, she changed the climate of Earth so that it became hot and dry. Nothing grew. The grain turned to empty husks and the rivers dried up. Innocent people died by the tens of thousands until at last the other gods were forced to act lest they have no worshippers left. So yes, we know this rule. This has always been the case. The golden rule has merely brought it into focus.
So, that's the basic story of Hades abducting Persephone that we have at the center of this story. Or as the Romans call him, Pluto abducting Proserpina. And it is true that Demeter's reaction, or Ceres' reaction, was to stop growing things. She made it so that the earth was dry and barren, and sometimes you'll see this portrayed as winter, And certainly it seems to have something to do with the cycle of the seasons in the later part of this story. But in Greece, I mean, you do get cold weather, you do get snow occasionally, especially in the north, but hot and dry and barren is a much more common conception of drought. There's a whole series of myths around Sirius, the dog star, as the baleful eye of summer that brings drought and misery and starvation.
If we are to survive, I say we must each heed the simple wisdom of Thales of Miletus, first of the 7 sages of Greece, who said, "Avoid doing what you would blame others for doing."
So the 7 sages of Greece, I don't think I can list them all offhand, but they include Thales of Miletus, who was one of the first shipbuilders, if I recall correctly, and of course Greece and Rome are both naval powers more than anything else. Calling Greece a unit is a bit of a misnomer, but at very least Athens, which is where most of our written information comes from. But all of these ancient empires look to water as the blood of empire. It's how you get around, it's how you transport food and ore and riches. When you look at a map of, say, the Roman Empire, it doesn't start to turn inland until it's already conquered everything along the coast. And it doesn't really get very far inland into, say, Africa. And the reason for that is that they were much more interested in controlling the water, which is not how we today tend to think about empire. In any case, so we have, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, only said backwards and in Greek. Sounds simple enough.
It does, doesn't it? But it is not enough for us to do this alone. For even if 99% of us adopt this principle, that will never be enough. Sadly, no matter how well we protect ourselves, the life's work of many good people can be undone in the blink of an eye by a single selfish act.
Oh, this game was made recently.
Ah, the voice of experience. I am sorry for your loss, my friend. But on a lighter note, I will say one thing for the Golden Rule. For all their grim and haunting poses, these golden statues do make magnificent models for my clothing, do they not?
Oh, I love him so much.
And in a city full of Romans, you are asking me? Because I am Greek. Let me tell you something about Greeks and Romans. My name is Georgios, yes, but the Romans, they do not care. They hear me say Georgios, and they think, he must mean Georgius. Good Roman name. They do this all the time. They see us worshipping Zeus, they copy us, but call him Jupiter. They take Hades and call him Pluto, Persephone, Proserpina. I am flattered that they copy our ideas, but why must they change the names? Do they want credit for making it all up? Do they want to forget where it came from? At first, I pull my hair out. After a while, I give up, and I become Georgius the Roman. I accept the world is Roman. Plus, I have no hair left to pull. But my point is this. If you want to know who stole an old Greek name, look no further than the sticky-fingered Romans. The plague you seek was pilfered from a collection of old Greek relics by none other than Dully. He cannot help it. Like a typical Roman, he likes shiny things, especially those that once belonged to my people. And besides, it makes him happy. So I say, let him keep it. I believe he still has it with him, in his cell, just opposite the Temple of Demeter.
So, Dooley, we've met a couple of times. Poor guy is, he's got some learning disabilities. He's very sweet, very innocent, and he's locked up because he keeps stealing things. And, although Galerius and Equitia have been, keeping him company and trying to convince the magistrate to let him go. The magistrate is really worried that he's going to break the golden rule. I can honestly see both sides of that problem. But here we have a little discourse on Greek and Roman names, as I was just talking about. And you heard Georgios using the modern Greek pronunciation Georgios. The gammas have become more of a y sound. They've lost their hardness in the back. But Georgios is a very common Greek name, at least in ancient times. I guess I don't know about modern times. It means farmer. And it is very true, regardless of how much the Romans already had of their own and how much they sort of reinterpret things. It is definitely true that the idea that the Romans just kind of copy all of the Greek stuff comes from somewhere. And so it is not unreasonable for Georgios, even knowing that there is a difference, to say that the sticky-fingered Romans just have to take everything and make it their own. Because the Romans took over all of Greece and made it into their own province. There are a lot of Greek slaves in this time. This is set in about 64, 65 BC. There are a lot of Greek slaves. Greeks have this reputation as being clever, but too clever, of being sneaky and untrustworthy. And I mean, there's a lot of racism that goes on between Romans, for whom the elites speak Greek fluently, and Greek speakers who speak Greek as their first language, who are dirty, foreign, second-class citizens. That doesn't sound like any immigrant problems today, does it? Racism may not exist in the ancient world in the way it exists now, but it certainly exists. It's a different problem, or a different shape of the same problem. Let's ask about his vote.
That, my friend, is quite the dilemma. But after some reflection, I'm leaning toward voting for Malone. I do not enjoy the thought of another visit from Domitius if I voted the wrong way.
Domitius is a gladiator who's just being a bully boy for Malleolus. They're gonna break the golden rule. Sounds like Georgios doesn't particularly like Malleolus, but what you gonna do?
Nothing comes to my mind, my friend. I hope that our paths cross again soon, my friend.
What a nice fellow. And we have these lovely powdered dyes here. That purple, it's so bright, it must be Murex. One of the most expensive dyes in the ancient world, made from powdered sea snail shells. I don't know what this bright blue would be. Maybe lapis. Again, very expensive. And that's a pretty serious red, but it could be almost anything. There are a lot of different reds. So,
Welcome to my humble store.
here we see, as promised, the golden statues modeling Georgios' wares. Gotta love that. So, let's follow up on this temple to Demeter, shall we? So it's not the ruined temple. Okay, my controller's being a bit funny. Sorry about that. It's not the ruined temple. With our thankfully dead fellow there. Look at that bounty notice again. Different colored eyes. Huh. Okay. Whisper says it will try to help you. Well, that would be lovely. But, I don't know what it means in this context. What is this? Oh, this is our temple to Demeter. Alright, we have these, striking columns, very modern floor tiling, a Greek sculpture of a young boy's head. I think this is a real one. It looks very familiar. And here we have a sitting goddess, Greek statue of a woman. So, yes, so... Hi! Welcome, Sam. Nice to see you here. Glad you could make it. Oh dear. So, are you hearing me at all? Uh-oh. I really hope the volume's been recording this whole time. Okay, good. So here we are in a temple to Demeter. This is a real statue. I recognize it, or at least its type. There were a couple of seated goddess statues found, I want to say on Lesbos, but that doesn't quite seem right. I meant to look it up, but I forgot during the move. You have this snake below. The snake is a symbol of the earth. So for Demeter, who is a goddess of the earth, that makes perfect sense. Let's see, we have beautiful... Oh, we can turn it. We have a beautiful Greek vase here. Again, this is a real artifact. A lot of these are. So, let's see what... I don't quite know what the subject matter is here. Looks like some hunting going on, but I'm also wondering if that's a gaming table. And if it is, it might well be the game between Odysseus and Ajax, which is often depicted. Just absolutely gorgeous work in programming this. Now, in a real Greek temple, this statue would be vibrantly painted, and this cloth would be much brighter. Given that Georgios is the one worshipping here, and he's been leaving offerings, I'm surprised he hasn't replaced it with one of his wares. Lots of tumbled down things. A second plinth, which is empty. Interesting. Another vase. Oh, another real artifact in the geometric style. This is very, very old. Yeah, I have seen this one in person, and it is gorgeous. This style is a lot older than what we think of when we think of ancient Greece. Like, we usually think of, like, the 4th century BC. This is, like, I want to say 7th century, maybe even older than that. I can't quite remember. I wish Kiernan were here. She always knows dates. I'm so bad at dates. Okay, so we're in here to find out more artifacts. A Greek general. Oh, that's likely the known as the Head of Pericles, an Athenian general who was the leader during the beginning of the Peloponnesian War, the leader of Athens. I mean, he wasn't officially a tyrant or anything. He was one of 10 generals, but he was definitely sort of the driving force behind Athens getting its stuff together to make an empire. Oh, what's this vase? Oh, another copy of the geometric vase. And of course we have our lovely little tripods, very common offerings to the gods. Some plates and cups, so possibly from Yorgios's offerings. And ooh, what's this? This looks like a door. Oh, you found a tunnel. Fascinating. Can probably uncrouch now. Inspect the oil lamp. Looks like someone has been through here recently. Official tyrant. Has the meaning of that word changed? Yes, actually. That's a really great question. So, tyrant in ancient Greece really just means the single ruler of a city. Tyrant can be good, can be bad, whatever. Can be elected. It doesn't matter how they got there, it doesn't matter how they rule. It just means the single person in charge of a city. And tyranny was usually formed actually by popular opinion rather than by the oligarchs getting together and picking someone. Usually, tyranny and oligarchy would swap places every now and again as different factions, the wealthy versus the poor, gained or lost power in sort of a constant struggle. And it's not until fairly late, really. There's this fascinating bit of propaganda that happens. There's this tyrant in Athens called Pisistratus, and when he dies, I'm leaving so much out here, but when he dies, basically his two sons take over, and they're kind of crappy. Pisistratus was less crappy. His sons are pretty crappy. And so the oligarchs start to gain power again, and they trump up this charge of, like, the son of Pisistratus insulted my sister, blah, 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 you know. And so they go and they kill him, but they lose the initial battle, and so they make this whole propaganda campaign about how evil tyrants are. And this is where we start to see that word take on an aspect of bad ruler and not just ruler. So Athens does overthrow the tyrants, but the oligarchs manage not to win anyway, and this is where we start getting democracy in Athens. Now, democracy was not unique to Athens. They weren't the first to have a democracy, but this is where democracy really enters the Athenian mindset. And Athens was very prolific, and so their kind of ideas about tyranny started to spread slowly over time. But also Sparta, one of the other major powers, was very against tyranny. They have this whole 2 kings plus an oligarchy system that I'm going to talk about in my next video, which is coming out Monday, barring disaster. But yeah, so basically the word tyrant takes on its meaning of a bad ruler in ancient times, but it's sort of mixed with an older meaning. So yeah, great question. Thank you for that. Okay, so this vase we're looking at is another copy of that one that was out there. Looks like an old bronze aspis shield, like you might see a Spartan use. Similar to the way popular connotations of monarchy used to be positive and now are largely negative. Yes. Yeah, very similar. Okay, what else have we got here? Oh, we've got a small loading screen. While we're looking at this lovely, old, Hellenistic style, it looks like. They call this the wet style for how the folds are draped. The fabric looks wet against the figure. So real variety in age here, because the Hellenistic period is like 200. And then we've got this like 800 vase. So, and then outside we have the CE, the Roman architecture. It's still loading. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Clearly this has been here a long time. So, single standing female figures like this are known as kore, or korai, rather, plural. But kore, the singular, is also one of the titles for Persephone or Proserpina. And it just means maiden or daughter. But, you know, it's interesting that we have one here. Now, this bit where, like, the hand is missing and the head is missing, that happens a lot. For a lot of different reasons. I mean, not least because they're the weakest part of the statue. But also, there were definitely times when other civilizations would come in, or even just other Greek city-states would come in and deface statues. And also, in modern times, if somebody digs up a part of a statue and they're not supposed to sell it, because they're supposed to turn it over to the Greek government, well, they might just cut off whatever they can see above the surface and then leave the rest to be gotten later. This actually happened pretty famously it was discovered that it happened. Just a few years ago, there was this beautiful statue of Hercules, a marble Hercules, and they figured out that the top half of it was in the Getty Museum, and the bottom half of it was in a museum in Greece. And there was a huge ruckus trying to unite the two halves and get jurisdiction and compensation and all of that. But as far as I know, it is now united in Greece. Okay. Onward. On with the show. Pretend you come here for my commentary and not just for me playing this game. Haha. It's a long tunnel. Okay. More stuff. Just some barrels. Another exact same statue. I do wish they didn't have such repeating. They have so many things here. Well, thank you. You do come here for the commentary. Thank you. Ooh, a nice classic Greek lyre. I wish we could get a better view of it. This one seems to be carved of wood. It's a very common Greek instrument. And this one appears to be meant to set on a surface, although many of them were meant to be essentially lap harps, or lap lyres, I suppose. And the most common material for them to be made out of actually was a tortoiseshell. If you go back and look at sort of the myths of the origin of the lyre and the origin of music, in fact, you find this myth. It's actually, if you read the Homeric hymn to Hermes, it's all about this story. So when Hermes was born as an infant god, he's a god, so he's instantly aware, even though he's an infant. He doesn't spring forth fully formed like Athena. And he gets kind of bored lying around in his cradle, and so he gets up and he basically trips over a tortoise. And he looks at it and goes, "Aha! I have an idea." And he immediately kills the tortoise as his first act. Yikes. Animal cruelty much. Takes its shell and makes a lyre. And starts playing it. And that's the first invention of a musical instrument, of music at all. The myth goes on, and he steals Apollo's cattle and basically gets forgiveness by giving Apollo the lyre, and Apollo, not Hermes, is the god of music. So, looks like we have another copy of our vase, and a naked kore. Well, it's probably not a kore, actually. They don't usually make naked statues of women. It's much more common to see naked statues of men. Men were considered the absolute form of beauty. Like a young man in the prime of his adolescence was considered to be the absolute physical ideal through most of Greece. So a naked woman is actually probably Aphrodite. Well, Hermes' idea to cure a headache was an axe to the head at Athena's birth. Yes, exactly. He's, his ideas seem to turn out, but boy, gotta worry about who thought that was a great idea. So this item here, this statue, was probably of Aphrodite, or of somebody meant to evoke Aphrodite. And the pose, where she's got one arm up and the other sort of leaning down, suggests that she was in particular one of the bathing Aphrodites. This style became really, really popular. I can't remember quite when, but I want to say in the 3rd century. Don't quote me on that. Sorry, Kieran, if I'm wrong. But it was one of the most common ways to portray Aphrodite, because it allowed for a reason for her to be naked. And then we have this gorgeous standing jar, which they don't let me pick up and turn around, which it looks like another geometric piece, but I can't quite tell. Another Pericles head. Another of the more Athenian style vases. There's some water here. There's quite a bit of water here. And then we have some masonry. It's a long way down a tunnel to start getting masonry. Looks like there used to be a door. Got all kinds of hinges and stuff. Graphics are screwing up a bit. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Plaque. Well, not the plaque we're looking for. This is a restatement of the Golden Rule. You might like an old comic strip? What strip? I wonder if we can take a torch. Nope. No prompt.
Ah, a visitor.
Ah! A dude! How odd. Ah, an old strip about the birth of Athena. Yes, that sounds fun. Okay. Guy. Who the heck are you, and why does my controller keep doing that? Sorry. He's very old.
Welcome, welcome. May I ask your name?
I don't think this is Kabash. It doesn't seem Egyptian.
It's a sincere pleasure to meet you.
Tell me, what brings you all the way down here?
Well, what brought me here specifically was looking for
Ah,
Kabash. Let's go with it.
Kabash. I know this man. He came through here some weeks ago.
Well,
I
then.
will tell you everything I know, but first, a request. I've been living down here alone for many years, with nobody to talk to but myself. The one thing I long for above all else before I die is a good philosophical argument with somebody astute. I'm hoping that person is you. Let us find out with this simple question. Have you deduced the name of the god responsible for the Golden Rule?
Well, yes. Yes, I have at this point in the game. But, okay, so they're strongly signaling that this man is Greek, that he's been down here a long time. How the heck he's survived down here is an interesting question, although I suppose the offerings to Demeter haven't hurt. But he's not on the registry. There's no one left on the register that this could be, so who is he?
Excellent. I see you are indeed quite astute. Very few come to that realization before their time in the sun is over. Now, will you join me in a friendly Socratic dialogue?
So, one of the most common ways in Greek to sort of signal, to euphemize death, is to say that your time in the sun is over, because the sun quite famously does not shine in the underworld. And that becomes quite relevant in a number of myths. So it's a bit of a contradiction from what we think we've learned, that we are all in fact already dead. So if he knows that the god of the underworld is the one ruling where we are, but he's saying we're not dead? How strange. Then again, although there isn't exactly a sun up there, we do seem to get night and day. So who knows? Being in a cavern is a strange thing. Okay, so a Socratic dialogue. Let's talk about Socrates a little bit. Socrates, you've probably heard of. I mean, just in general, most people have heard of Socrates. He was an ancient philosopher of Athens. He had a lot of very famous students, Plato and Xenophon being the most well-known. Plato is usually where people know him from. Socrates himself never wrote anything down. He actually was vehemently against writing and said it would rot kids' brains. That argument has literally been around forever. Every new tech is going to rot kids' brains. So it's kind of lucky that we have anything of him at all. He was very famous for getting into arguments and dialogues with people on the street. What's less well known about that is that he was on the street because he just didn't want to live with his wife anymore, and so he just hung out on the street like a bum. And he was kind of a dirty, gross old man, and there was a reason a lot of people hated him. But he spent all his time sort of in contemplation, and he was effectively a teacher. So he would sit around on the street and talk to young men and young women, and talk about like big philosophical ideas, the way that society could change. He would have been heckin' great on YouTube. He would have loved YouTube. Imagining Neanderthals complaining that their kids spend too much time around the fire. Yes, I can only imagine. Painting on the walls, that'll rot your brain. So philosophy becomes very quickly associated with the Greeks, especially in a Roman-focused game. Which is not to say that the Romans didn't have their own philosophy. They definitely did, and if you watch the earlier episodes of this game stream, you'll see me getting into the Stoics in particular. My problematic fave, Seneca the Younger. But a Socratic dialogue is one in which somebody poses philosophical questions until you arrive at a conclusion about some philosophical topic. So this is often sort of used as shorthand for the way that teachers will interrogate their students and get them to think about things in a new light. If you actually go and read the Socratic dialogues that Plato wrote, it's a lot of, yes, Socrates, no, Socrates, and just Socrates going on and on. So, whether or not I think that's a misnomer, I'm not sure. Anyway, let's chat.
Then let me begin with a question. Would you say you know the difference between right and wrong?
So I like the options they give us here, right? It was like, you can just kind of blithely go with, yes, Socrates. But more truthfully, I think the correct answer to this question is that it's complex. There's not a single answer, and so I'm going to go with that.
You are an overthinker too.
Yes, I am.
That's probably why I became a philosopher. But if you struggle with right and wrong normally, then down here with the golden rule, surely your struggle can only have become more difficult.
I guess so.
Well, that's reassuring. And the truth is, you're not alone. You see, out there in the world, being uncertain about right and wrong was acceptable, because our mistakes rarely had consequences. So we would tell lies and bend rules and turn a blind eye and rationalize, and yet still find a way to think of ourselves as good people. But under the golden rule, morality matters. The slightest wrongdoing could result in a mass execution. So to navigate this maze, we would have to be certain about the difference between right and wrong. Wouldn't you agree?
Answering a question with a question is traditional.
That is an excellent question, and it leads directly to my next line of inquiry. So let me ask you this. Is there one system of morality which is always perfectly correct, which you could follow in every situation and always do the right thing?
So, quite honestly, a real-world answer to this, I think there is not. I think there's no perfection in morality. Perfection does not exist. But that is a dangerous answer, because it can lead to the argument that everything then is subjective, which I find abhorrent, and so do most people, I think, especially us folks over on the lefty-left side of things. So, no, I don't think that there is a perfect morality. And yet, I don't think that everything is subjective either.
Are you sure? Or is it possible that humans simply haven't figured out the right system yet?
So we get into our complex mire here.
So is it up to each of us to decide what right and wrong mean to us individually? Or must we simply follow the laws and customs of whichever community we're in?
And see, here's the false dichotomy I was worried about, right? Because he's proposing a completely subjective morality. Well.
So if a man feels that stoning to death his unfaithful wife is right, then is it right?
No.
I agree. But why? Didn't you just say right and wrong depends on the individual?
So, we could say if he feels it's right to kill his wife, then he's confused or sick, but quite honestly, that's a cop-out. Saying that people who do the wrong thing are, for instance, mentally ill is a way of absolving ourselves of complicity in the wrongs of our society. So no, I'm not gonna say that. Let's see what he says.
And that's a credit to you. It is the mark of a civilized person to change their position when presented with a superior argument.
He just likes winning.
My point is this. I don't think anyone alive truly knows any hard and fast rules about right and wrong.
Or anyone dead, turns out. So, if we continue this argument with, what about do not kill, then he's gonna ask about, I don't know, what if we let that assassin live to go on and kill others? Or what if a woman is dying in childbirth and you could kill her to save the baby or kill the baby to save her? It's going to be some situation in which killing is the only real option. I am actually curious about what he'll say, so let's find out.
Surely you would agree there are circumstances where an exception may be made, such as where it is necessary for self-defense or to prevent a greater evil.
And there we go,
rule,
with the assassin
there
argument.
Are countless situations in which that rule may be suspended, and those situations are impossible to codify. If there is one thing I have observed about rules, it is that virtuous people do not need them, and evil people will always find a way around them. And so we must accept our limitations, and the sad truth that no human society will ever achieve the utopia for which it strives. In mathematics, we would call it an asymptote, a line that can be approached but never reached. Because the only way to create a utopia is with the ever-present threat of force, such as the Golden Rule. This and no other is the root from which a tyrant springs when he first appears as a protector. And life under tyranny is no utopia at all.
I'm so tired of people attributing that idea to Cicero, who probably never said it. Which idea? There were a bunch there. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm going to talk about utopia. So utopia, coming from this Greek guy, is actually pretty funny because he would know that utopia is actually no place. It breaks down in Greek to a non-existent place, a place that is not. So, of course, any utopia is not possible. Okay, so good people don't need rules and evil people break them. Yeah, it's definitely older than that. I don't know if Cicero ever said that. It seems like the sort of thing he might say, for sure. Like, it's well within the realm of a thing he would say. And he did write plenty of philosophical rambles. I can find out, though. That's the sort of thing I can search for. I'm not a Cicero expert. Although I do find him a little bit charming. He is an arrogant fuck, but he tries so hard. He cares so much. So, another interesting thing that he says here is he uses tyranny in the more modern sense. But like I said, that is perfectly plausible for an ancient Greek too, especially one from Athens, which honestly I think they're implying here with the heavy leaning on philosophy. Not that other cities didn't have philosophers, but, bringing up Socrates and, like Athens really was sort of like the place that prided itself on philosophy and art and was just like, we're the most intellectual, and, the rest of Greece kind of went, sure, but but Athens was very prolific, so it's a lot of what we have. I remember reading a blog from someone who said they researched it and couldn't find it from him. Yeah, that seems plausible too. Like, it's such an old idea, and it's such a very easily comprehensible saying that unless somebody has like a citation for where the quote came from, I would assume that it's just, oh, somebody important must have said this because it sounds true. Yeah, makes total sense to me. Okay. So, life under tyranny is no utopia at all. No. For a number of interpretations of this.
I'm glad to hear that. In any case, thank you for humoring an old man. I would be happy to answer your questions.
So, this conversation is super interesting, but I, alas, am super tired, so I think I am going to end the stream here. There's been a lot to talk about. Oh, interesting. I apparently have to,
I enjoyed our chat, but please, keep my presence here a secret, yes?
I'll talk to him again next time. But for now, let's make a save. Well, thank you so much for watching, and thank you those of you who made it, and Sam for chatting. And I will see you next week. Thank you. Have a good one. And hey, don't forget to watch my Sparta video when it comes out, hopefully on Monday. Alright. Keep learning, friends.